welcome to Jill Cameron Creations. Today we are going to take a look at doing white pencil on dark cardstock. And before we do that, those are my drawers that y'all see every once in a while in my videos, me pulling out. I have paper in them. We are going to use the Altenew Peony Scrolls, and I'm just using the outline image of it, and I'm going to heat emboss the entire background with several of the images from the Peony Scrolls. And I'm going to use some Simon Says clear embossing powder and also some Simon Says gold embossing powder. Did I say, I already said that twice, didn't I? We're going to be using Simon Says sticky ink and their embossing ink. And I was giving this a try, and I found in another video, for cardstock it's fine, but anything special, like to do it on the heat resistant acetate stuff, I wasn't real thrilled with it, and I went back to using the Versamark for that. But for just general everyday use, it was fine. So I am stamping all of these images all at once, and on dark cardstock you see it really easily, all of the outlines for the flowers. And to begin with, I started out with my anti-static powder tool and put that all over that background, and then I just used various blocks to stamp all of my images. Make sure some of them go off the edge. Make sure that you're varying the rotation of them, unless you want that consistent kind of pattern. And I knew that I was also going to be adding some either jewels or Nuvo drops. I didn't know what at the time, but I knew I was going to be adding some of those, so I wanted to leave a little bit of open space. And I also knew that I was going to be adding sentiment strips over top of this. And there's a pretty large area that I had that wasn't covered with any stamped images. They're kind of in the middle, but I knew that I was going to be adding sentiment strips over that, so I was okay with it being there. I knew about where I was going to add my sentiments. I did really like this color of gold embossing powder, especially on this navy cardstock, and it melts really easy and really pretty, and I really did like this. Anytime I have a panel, I have a kitchen cutting board that I like to put my panels on to make sure that I don't burn my fingers more than anything, but it just helps me go ahead and get everything heated up and heat embossed very evenly, and I don't have to worry about burning my fingers. I can just hold it, except when you do that. I don't like to heat emboss and set this down directly on my table because it will warp your mat. So I don't like doing that, and I don't like putting it directly down on my table for fear that it will scorch it. So just keep those things in mind when you're thinking about doing heat embossing, or you're doing heat embossing in something that's a big panel like this. Alright. Clean up real quick, put the top back on the jar for the embossing powder so it doesn't end up all over the place. How many times have you spilled embossing powder? I know I've done it a million times. I don't use an eraser or anything for this. I think I found a spot that wasn't completely heat embossed on there, wasn't completely melted. I don't use an eraser to get rid of my anti-static powder tool. I use microfiber cloth and just buff everything away really well, and it works just fine, no problems whatsoever. Make sure get everything off of it. I can't stand that grainy feel if I have something stuck under there. Then really quick, I'm going to take a Prismacolor white pencil that's really sharp, and I'm going to color in some of the areas on all of the images. I didn't completely color them in. I got some that were a little bit darker in areas and a little bit lighter in areas, and just really quickly colored everything in with a very sharp Prismacolor pencil. You can also do this with any white pencil. I will say that the Prismacolor does a smooth job because it is such a soft pencil, whereas you're going to get, if you have a much harder lead in your pencil and it's not as soft as the Prismacolors, then you're going to get more lines than you are going to get that, just that soft hint of something being there. So today my throat's kind of scratchy and itchy and I'm coughing a lot, so I'm going to go ahead and play a little bit of music just for a minute while I finish coloring up this background on here, and then I'll come back and we'll finish the card. So I went and found my sentiments that I'm going to use, and I pulled these out of the My Favorite Things More Essential Sentiment set, and I used two. You are the sweetest, and I simply adore you. So this particular card, how I created it, you could definitely use this as a non-traditional, not pink, not red, not white, Valentine's Day card if you wanted to. Now, I know you're seeing that I'm doing a lot of stamping with blocks instead of a stamping tool, especially in this video. And how I like to do my sentiments, I don't do really well with doing sentiments in my Misty for some reason. I do a whole lot better if I go ahead and I line it up on my mat. If it's a long sentiment like this one is, I'll line it up on my mat, make sure that it's the way I want it, and then I will put it on a block that has lines on it. And I'm going to heat emboss on some Nina Solar White with the same gold embossing powder from Stamping Simon Says Stamp. And I'm going to heat set that. And then I do the same exact thing with the other sentiment. And it's literally, I just put it down on the mat, I'll line it up, make sure that it's straight, and then I put it on a block that has a line on it. And these particular blocks, I think this one came from MFT, I'm pretty sure. And it has a center line down the very middle of it, and then it has little cross lines across that. So it has 1, 2, 3, 4 lines on it, and it works really, really well to line up sentiments and keep your sanity so they're not all crooked. So went ahead and added some embossing powder to that second sentiment, and then I'm just going to take my paper trimmer and trim these down to skinny little sentiments, and so that they're just the rectangles and not anything fancy, anything like that. And then I'm going to go and I've actually used pearls on this card. They're navy blue pearls that I found in my stash. It's amazing if you clean your stash out and you put it out where you can see it, how wonderful little products, how many things you can find. It was fantastic. So I found some navy blue pearls, and I'm going to put those on the card. So I'm just going to trim these down. Skinny little sentiments. Ta-da! And pop those up with some foam tape. And I believe I'm using the foam tape, either they're Doris or they're Stampin' Up. And I believe they were Stampin' Up. And I had some pieces of that left over. As you can see, I use every bit of it. And I don't waste any of it. I even cut up the pieces that are around the edge of that stuff. But I believe that was from Stampin' Up, the skinny pieces are. But of course you can trim down fun foam, you can trim down Scotch foam tape, any foam tape that you have. Well, if you had foam squares, you could cut some of those in half and use those on the back of sentiment strips as well. Square my card up on my mat, and then I will go ahead and add my sentiments. I was a little leery that I was going to make this a little crooked, so I pulled out my T-ruler, which I don't do that often, but in this case I just wanted to make sure that my eyes weren't deceiving me and that it was actually straight. And then I saw that it wasn't, so I pulled it back off, and let's try that again, and I'll just eye it this time. I do a whole lot better if I just eye it. Some people can't, and some people can, and either way is perfectly fine. And pull out your T-ruler or whatever you need to make sure that it's straight. Ta-da! And now we're going to get some pearls on there. So I was very happy with this card. I love this card. I was channeling my inner Yana Smakula when I did this card, because I just absolutely love it when she does the dark and adds the embossing powder and stuff to it. Absolutely love it. And I was just really channeling her when I did this card. And I will link to a card that she did that was really similar to this over on my blog. That was kind of my inspiration for this, and she did it a while back, and I couldn't figure out which stamp set I wanted to use that I had for this, and I wanted to make sure that I had a real alternative for a Valentine's card too. This would be good for co-workers, if you wanted to do something for co-workers that have been really kind and that kind of thing. For Valentine's Day, this would be a really nice card for that. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. That is going to be our card. Don't forget to head over to my blog to find out some more tips and tricks about coloring on dark colors, and I hope you enjoyed today. Thanks so much. Have a great day.